There's more to sexual desire than a simple biological drive or a passing mood. It is indestructible, unquenchable, and fundamental to who we are. It is the fire that burns within us no matter what. According to Carl Jung, libido is more than simply sexual energy. It is the very essence of being that motivates us to pursue our dreams, whether material or spiritual. The physical sphere is not the exclusive domain of this energy. We can't escape its influence. It shapes who we are and what we're passionate about. The manifestation of sexual desire persists even in the face of suppression or denial, via several mediums, including art, creativity, and spirituality. It is an unstoppable power that is always looking for new ways to show itself and change. When we give in to our sexual desires, we're really accepting a core aspect of who we are. We see this longing for acceptance and inclusion rather than as a flaw that must be conquered. Rather, it is an essential part of who we are as human beings. Because it is intrinsic to our humanity, sexual desire, thus, never really goes away. IMA speaks volumes about our dynamism, inventiveness, and social abilities. We welcome the completeness of our human experience when we value this part of ourselves. The act is secondary to the quality of being alive. A person's creative potential, the power to build an empire, and the inspiration to follow your ambitions are all aspects of the same vital energy that unites two bodies. There is nothing inherently rudimentary about sexual desire, a primitive urge. This is the first language that the soul ever knew. Long before humanity mastered the art of saying, "I'm sorry," prior to being instructed to remain quiet, little, and pure, we were indoctrinated with shame-like ideology. Fire, however, is not dirty. Wanting to be seen, touched, and known, not conceptually, but in actual physical contact, is not a sign of shame. Passion is holy. What truly makes it holy, though, is not how we bury it, but rather how we treat it with the utmost respect, responsibility, and a frank and unapologetic acknowledgement that it is an integral part of who I am. There was never an enemy in the body. The altar is the body. By putting an end to the sacrifice at that altar and rejecting it, you will not get enlightenment if you quench your hunger, alleviate its pain, and punish its desire. Suppression is not transcendence. It breaks you down. The state of detachment. Wise people don't worry about wanting things. Through it, they direct it. Alchemy is their process. They allowed it to flow through them rather than commanding them. To reawaken them, though, because libido isn't in charge here. Its purpose is to expose your hidden places, to let your soul's intense desire to touch this life shine through, to convey your deepest desires. That insatiable need, that wild, unbridled vitality defies the passage of time. It stays out of matters of religion and spirituality. You were born to be burned, so it calmly waits beneath the surface like a storm. Feelings are in your nature. The whole range, including the tamed attachments and refined feelings as well as the heat, hunger, and pain. Reason being, desire isn't a whisperer, it's a roarer. Your spine tingles with its rumble. A long, drawn-out look can make your flesh crawl. It roars through your spirit when presence becomes uncomfortable. You are not merely here to exist. You are here to embody, to live as if this skin were holy, and this is what you are reminded of. To honor not an abstract deity, but the sacredness inherent in the quaking of touch, the gasp just before giving in, and the silence just before breaking apart. This is the sacred site of all things sensual, not pornographic but poetic, not aimless want but love so profound that it must be kindled by fire before it may split in two. That is why the desire to have sex is eternal. Reason being, it's not just a physiological requirement. It is a song that longs to be heard by all, oneness with another, joining forces with the universe, coming together with the fragments of who you are that you buried under the weight of shame and guilt. A longing is the spirit's defiance of despondency. Refusing to settle for a life of subtle suppression is what it is. This is a gentle reminder that physical limitations are not an impediment. You're being invited. After you stop fighting your desires, listen to your hunger, and stop scolding your wallet for being too vocal, you'll be able to return to an era preceding language, terror, and humiliation. Your inner temple, which was never truly lost, but just locked, awaits your return. It dawns on you that wanting something isn't a flaw. Here you were born. You own it. This is your path back. The path that leads you back to your wild form. You were warned by the one who came before you to fear your own fire. You were a sin before they even called you that. You were taught that obedience, discipline, and denial are necessary conditions for receiving pleasure. What if, however, your joy is the field in which you operate? Imagine if your yearning serves as your guide. Imagine for a second if the pain in your chest, the rumbling in your stomach, and the buzzing between your ribs are signs of wisdom rather than weakness that should be cleansed. To develop one's spirituality, one must go beyond sexual desire. It opens the door. No celestial body has ever considered the serpent at your back to be a danger. In the stillness, there was paradise coiling up, patiently awaiting your signal to emerge. It does more than only reawaken the body when it does this. Reawakens the reality. This is the reality. Are not an error. Your desire is not dishonorable. The fact that your flesh is pure. Divine it is. With that insight, you no longer need to beg for permission to feel. Culture, dogma, and lovers who never learnt to worship a flesh and blood soul are no longer worthy of your erotica. It is yours again. Reclaiming every inch of your sensuality is your mission. A person once persuaded you that your desires made you dangerous, so you repressed every sound of pleasure, every moan, kiss, and yes, because you were afraid of what others would think of you. Even if it does, the kind of threat it poses is sacred. The kind that wakes you up from the dead sleep of emotional numbness, burns illusions, and dissolves falsehoods. Since desire is not something you make, it will never die. You seem to recall it. You have just recalled this. You recollect the essence of existence, in both mental and physical forms. You keep in mind that being weak in the face of strong desire does not mean you are losing control. It is about getting back to being entire. Because you were trained for far too long to be timid and reserved, to be intelligent but not reckless, to be honest but not. Never sensuous, always sacred, and without desire. A half measure is not what you are meant to be. Being holy while hungry is your purpose. To move as both fire and shape. To speak with a gentle yet forceful tone. To experience the divine, not merely in contemplation of a higher power, but also in the gentle, sweat-slick collision of bodies that no longer make excuses for their lack. The world is afraid of this. Your light, not your shadow. That brilliance that emerges when you stop dimming your light to fit into someone else's cozy little world. Upon realizing that you keep acting as though your desire is under control. As soon as you stop trying to hide your strength in discreet places, believing no one will notice, you have so much passion and energy within you. However, from now on, you burn with devotion rather than carelessness. You shatter the stories that bound you physically. Fear taught you love couldn't be fertile, but you've burned through that. You vaporize the deception. Even if they are incompatible, pleasure and purpose are inseparable. Due to the fact that your purpose here goes beyond mere survival. Feel, touch, and devour life. That is your purpose here, whole. And remembering your desire is a sacred act. It does not degrade you. On the contrary, it restores your divinity. Since want, genuine want, never fades away. It will only depart once you get home. The moment you get home and stand fully in your own skin, breathing and firing, things start to shift. The reason is not that you have transformed into someone else, but rather that you have ceased feigning to be someone else all along. Feeling sincerely, wanting openly, and living sensually no longer requires permission. You were, as delicately as a secret handkerchief around your own sensual truth. You strut about in it. It is something you put on, then you talk about it. Reason being, you now understand that desires aren't meant to be regulated. It is here for you to treasure. Getting burnt to ash is not a sin. Pay attention to it since it's a signal. Your morality will not be tested. You can see your energy reflected in it. Plus, that mirror will forever show you in your completeness. The fire within you, the need for something beyond just existence and not only your light. You long to transform into another person in more ways than one. In the course of existence. That is the essence of sexual desire. The soul's constant urge toward connection with existence, not merely the desire for contact. To appreciate the significance of each breath. To rub against the flesh of wisdom till it groans under your weight. To exist in such stark reality that being in your presence is a prayer in and of itself. You have finally tamed your wild side, not because you have given it up. Your immortality ensures that your desires will endure. Oh, you completely overlooked it, but you've recalled it now, and that remembering is the new beginning. It constitutes a paradigm shift. Yes, it is a new beginning in which you realize the sacred and the sensual are one and the same, and you let go of the old ways of dividing them. They were never. Stay focused on your objective and don't let your desires derail you. Entrance to it is provided by it. Your desire is not a defect. We call it compass. You are not merely requesting pleasure with every beat, throb, and pain in your body. Presence is being requested. In the now, with the breath, with the now, with the unfiltered, unabashed truth of being here, not only with another, whole, conscious, and living. They fail to instruct you on this. Believe your desires are sacred, that your desires for fulfillment are a sign from on high, and that your sensual nature is not an obstacle to your spiritual growth. It is the powertrain, because chasing after fleeting pleasures becomes unnecessary when your life is in harmony with your desires. You must cease confusing coldness with contentment. Your body, your relationships, and your soul will no longer tolerate smallness. You start to value depth above safety, honesty above routine, and comfort over truth. And amidst that yearning, a new type of lover emerges in you. Not the type to put on a show of affection just to fit in. Not the one that gets high off of enticing others. Unlike the one who unplugs in order to maintain command. Embrace the role of the lover who is open despite feeling everything. Instead of becoming a source of pain for other people, you might be a symbol of the warmth that comes from knowing that they are not alone. Why? Because overcoming self-doubt begins with embracing your desires. You discover an eternal quality, one that is unconstrained by dogma, and that fearless self can bury, no guilt can murder, and no amount of time can erase. And when you burn, not from destruction, but from commitment, you ignite something ancient in people. It's the fire that says, I am here, I am whole, I am hunger, and I am not afraid to burn. It's the purest, oldest thing in you. You have the power to reignite dormant flames. A reflection of concealed realities in a mirror. The invitation that assures you it is okay to desire, feel, and remember now that this fire is not careless. Refined it is. It has its origins. This is morally sound. Rather than being born out of anarchy, it is the clarity that comes from knowing that desire, when respected, does not engulf you. As a result, you feel whole. It takes back control of your life from the parts of you that were ordered to be quiet, to comply, and to sit down. The pieces you lost in relationships that were afraid of your depth are all here. It compiles all the times you pretended to be nice when, deep down, you wanted to let your true colors shine. Plus, it stitches them back together, into the real you, not the one the outside world expected. Who you were prior to the interruption. The free-spirited, sage, open-minded individual who never doubted her heart rate, who was unapologetic about his pain and unafraid to be himself since that version of themselves never faded. Underneath the din, the embarrassment, and the notion that one's most sacred aspects had to remain concealed in order to be revered, that rendition merely sank to the earth. Now, though, you ascend with each delicious breath, as each idea rediscovers its sensual brilliance. Every time you decide to pay attention instead of numbing. That's why sexual desire is ever present. Reason being, It is inseparable from your soul. Your soul is moving, expressing itself, and harmonizing with the material universe. Plus, you'll feel more energized the more you give something your whole attention. Because if you want to live fully, if you want to stop acting like your spirit and your body don't communicate, then you need to stop pretending. Not all. You are more than your physical form. A live altar dedicated to the vital energy that flows through you. It is a prayer with a steady cadence. Plus, that beat won't make you feel bad about yourself. It begs you to give it up. Not the shrinking type of surrender, but the liberating kind. Give up to every emotion, from the gentlest yearning to the most intense desire. From the beginning of anguish to the peak of sanctity, not merely in a relationship, but in life itself. Because you don't need anyone to affirm your sexual desire. It will come to you naturally. It is patiently waiting for you to release it from the clutches of shame, denial, and the constraints of your position or title. And anticipations. You must cease entrusting your approval to the ideologies that dread your authority. You can burn anything you want. Your birth was a blazing inferno. When you come to terms with it, when you quit attempting to control your essence and begin to trust it, you unleash your full potential and become incredibly dangerous. Disrupting the lies, brainwashing, and cages is more important than destroying anything. No one is stronger than the one who has no idea what they're doing, so you enter rooms with a shiver down your spine and a flutter in your eye. It is no longer a mystery. Unabashedly radiant from the inside out, no one is more captivating. Whoever can say, "I trust my body," with unwavering conviction is truly a divine being. I have faith in my desire. My passion is inseparable from my divinity, so I have faith in it. My divine essence is being manifested. The greater reality that healing was never about silence, stillness, or denial becomes clear when divinity pours through you like that as desire, passion, or pleasure. Integration was the main topic. It involved contacting. Disaster at home. They deemed the fire unsuitable. The blaze they deemed hazardous. Because they were never taught self-sufficiency, they were terrified of the fire. But you're gaining knowledge. You are recalling details. As a compass, your erotic intelligence is being reclaimed by you. Questions like, is this too much? Am I wrong for wanting this? Will they still love me if I show them all? Lose their potency when you do this. When your authority is fixed and cannot be altered. Whenever your desire is no longer a test. It is a truth because you are who you say you are. What it means to be human, to ache, to yearn, to connect, is not a problem, but an experience to be felt, a hallowed throb beneath your ribs. The desire to be truly understood, to be caressed without fear, to be seen unfiltered, and to be known on a deeper level lies at the core of all sexual desires. And when you do, it with awe, candor, and unwavering presence, you will have met yourself in that manner. Put an end to settling. For partners who are afraid of you, yet desire your body solely. If you were meant to be experienced in its entirety, you should cease providing bits. It was never meant to contain the untamed spirit you possess, so you give up pursuing after it. Reason being, you are now in possession of it. You don't clutch it tightly, but rather with reverent hands, not to claim it as your own, but to shield it from harm and nurture your own inner fire with the utmost care. You become untouchable in every sense because you hold it and finally dare to stand in the full gravity of your sensual truth, to shatter your spirit. Those who were infatuated with your brightness, but not your darkness, eventually drift apart. Those who were impressed by your intellect, but terrified of your physique vanish. Now that you see it plainly, the stories that instructed you to hide your heat in order to be holy no longer hold any weight. A person who lives in harmony with their sensuous truth is the most sacred thing in the world, who is unapologetic about being both a storm and a sanctuary. They can lean in for a passionate kiss, touch with reverence, and sit quietly in quietness without seeking validation from others. Because aroused sexual desire does not lead to anarchy. Clarity is achieved. The ability to see clearly your identity, your desires, and the things you will not abide. You stop looking for pleasure when you have clarity. Being physically present is important to you. To you, depth is paramount. Slow burn is what you're after. The kind that enlivens your spirit as much as your skin. You yearn for a union where your vulnerability extends beyond the physical, where you can let your guard down and be yourself. Emotions run high. This is energetic. Consider it existential. Whoever meets you there, for real, will never fear your heat again. They will have encountered their own. Since it isn't pursuing a person, sexual desire is eternal. The pursuit is futile. The mirror that shows you your complete, unfiltered, uncontrollable self and confidently says, yes, this is all of you. I see it. I stay. And when you're seen in that way, deeply and unfiltered, something within of you comes together. But pride, but a hurting kid looking for respect, not the conditioned individual hoping for selection, but the essence of one's being. The spirit that has yearned for a mirror made of real reality rather than fiction. Since the most idealized kind of sexual desire has nothing to do with self-indulgence. It's all about acknowledgement. This kind of acknowledgement says, I remember you in me. I feel myself more clearly because of how you stand with me in truth. It is the force that tears down the wall between the sacred and the sensual. It doesn't demand performance. It invites participation. You're no longer a stranger. It doesn't demand performance, but it does recognize your presence. You have evolved from a passive observer of your own desires to an active agent of awakening. Love no longer has to awaken you. You are the awakening. You are the one who knows that integrity and sensuality go hand in hand, and that wisdom without sensuality is like a perfume without a soul. You desire and embody both, the temple and the thunder, the devotion and the danger, the stillness between breaths and the scream beneath the skin. And this redemption, the unwavering acceptance of your sexuality as a sacred guide, a creative force, and a natural part of who you are, is what brings you back to your true self. That part of you that existed before censorship and shame, the part that knows what it wants and isn't afraid of its own power. Because when you let go of your fear of desire, you let go of your fear of your own power. And when you let go of your fear of your own power, you become free. As a result, this is a return to yourself, not to someone else, but to the wild, unfiltered, unforgotten version of yourself that. I have always understood that desire is not a threat, but rather a truth, a compass, a code, and a flame that the world tried to put out but could never touch. The fire that comes from within does not die quietly, but rather waits. When it does rise, it does more than just light your body. It illuminates your becoming. So now you walk as both an invitation and a boundary, as hunger and holiness, as creation and a creature. You no longer seek love through sacrifice, avoidance, and confusion numbness for peace. You feel this profound awakening. Everything. You hold nothing back. And yet, you are not consumed. You are whole because you have finally come to terms with the fact that sexual desire is eternal, just as your soul is. They were never supposed to die, just to be reclaimed.